All right, hello. What's happening? Welcome back. This is teacher Mr. Loria. Hi. This is Siddhartha, lecture 1, introduction, and chapter 1. A couple of things. Yes, it's been a while, but hello. I'm back. I'm actually at school, so hopefully no one interrupts. A couple announcements, etc. But here we are. Let's begin by asking. We're going to review basically two methods, why we're doing this, why I'm using this translation, chapter 1, who is Siddhartha, another character, his role, and his decision. So that's what we're going to review today. So why do we read books? Aside from the fact that English teachers need jobs, I think the best answer is that we read books to learn about life through stories. That's it. Right? We read books to learn about life through stories, so I'm not going to draw a plot diagram. I'm not going to talk about, rising action. That's not really the point. The point is to learn about life through stories, and this is a powerful story. It's a story that means a lot to a lot of people, so we will dissect it. Author is Hermann Hesse, German author, who knew a bit about Eastern philosophy and mysticism, so we will try to cover both appropriately. Okay, this is the blue book, right? Most people, my cover fell off, but most people read this version of Siddhartha. I think it's crap. I think this version is much better. The author, she apparently teaches at Columbia, and anyway, this translation is beautiful. I'll just read one quick sentence just to emphasize that point. Blue book, chapter 1, first sentence. Whew, this thing is falling apart, man. Anyway, okay. The Brahmin son. This is the blue version. In the shade of the house, in the sunshine on the riverbanks, by the boats, in the shade of the sour wood, and the fig tree, Siddhartha, the handsome Brahmin son, grew up with his friend Govinda. Okay. This translation. I happen to put on the dust jacket upside down. So, the son of the Brahmin, chapter 1, first sentence. In the shade of the house, in the sunlight on the riverbank, where the boats were moored, in the shade of the sow wood, in the shade of the fig tree, Siddhartha grew up, the Brahmin's handsome son, the young falconer, together with his friend Govinda, the son of a Brahmin. Period. Right? So that's the first sentence. So as you can see, I think this version, I read blue version maybe 15 times before I found this one. This is the one to go with. So I'm going to use this one primarily. If there's ever reason to compare and contrast, I will. But who is Siddhartha? We learn a couple things right off the bat. When he walks by the street, people are like, woo! The girls are checking him out. His appearance. None of them love him more dearly than his friend Govinda, right? He loves Siddhartha's eyes, his sweet voice, the way he walked, the flawless grace of his movements. It's a physical appearance thing, right? He loved all that Siddhartha did and said, so those are his actions. And most of all, he loved his mind, his noble, ardent mind, passionate thoughts, his ardent will, his noble calling. A couple interesting points right there. So Siddhartha is blessed with appearance, good actions, and also his mind and his character, his soul. And that's a very important idea. Hesse, the author, is very familiar with Nietzsche. And Nietzsche says, love thy fate. Which means, some people maybe are destined to be something great. And Siddhartha is one of those people, you can almost tell. As a teacher, you deal with a lot of people, a lot of groups. And some people are cut out for, more than the ordinary, perhaps. Siddhartha is one of those people. So keep your eye on that. You also have, of course, Govinda, his BFF, his best friend, who's definitely the follower. I'm not going to say foil character, he's not, but he's somebody that kind of follows the lead of Siddhartha. He's a very loyal, very loving friend, and then that's established kind of right off the bat. But who is Siddhartha? He is the son of a preacher man, or Brahmin man, I suppose. There's that good song, it's in my head now. Anyway, there is a, quote, disquiet of the soul, wafting in the smoke from the sacrifices. Something is telling him this is not quite it, right? So there is that part of Siddhartha There's this thirsting that he has. There's this sorrow. So he's the kind of person who grows up, and it's expected that he would take over in his father's tradition. And Brahmin traditions, there's a lot of like oral chanting. There's a lot of, he's been reared to be this. He's kind of the next star on the block, but it's not doing it, right? And they're out there meditating, and he's thinking, he has all these doubts. Lo and behold, who passes through towns but these ascetics, right? And these are kind of people who are starving themselves, who are mortifying the body for the sake of kind of like spiritual quest. It's a little bit foreign to us sometimes in Western society. We think about that, but one of the best ways it's been explained to me by somebody a religious person who does engage in physical mortification is they'll say, listen, look at somebody running a marathon. Look at the end of that race. They look terrible, right? They're putting their body through a tremendous harm and sacrifice. Look at people in the gym. They're sweating. They're assuming the plank position. Plank position is not fun, right? Why do they do this? For physical gain, right? And so if we're willing to sacrifice for physical gain, why wouldn't we sacrifice for spiritual gain? Because God and the soul and spiritual goals are so much more important than just the body, right? So if you think about it that way, it does kind of make sense. Anyway, as people walk through town, I love the way that they're described. Shrouded in isolation, foreign to the world and hostile to it. Strangers and wizened jackals among men. There's something different. Obviously this way of life is like, no, we're not going to indulge the senses. We're not going to really eat much. We're out here doing something different. This strikes Siddhartha. And he decides right then and there, I'm out of here. I'm going to go follow these guys. He goes to his father to tell him this, tell him his decision. And he has to kind of run it by him. And when he tells him, it's a beautiful moment. It's a beautiful moment, right? With your permission, my father, I've come to tell you it's my wish to leave your house, right? And then it says, the Brahmin was so silent and remained silent so long that the stars drifted in the small window and changed their shapes before the silence in the room reached its end. So he waits and he pauses, and this is at night, and the constellations behind him have changed form, which is pretty tight, or pretty beautiful. His father's like, no, I'm upset, right? And then they go through this exchange of like, you're gonna disobey me? And he's like, I'm gonna obey you, but my will is gonna direct this, right? You'll grow tired, I will grow tired, right? You'll fall asleep, I will not fall asleep. His will, notice Siddhartha's kind of like, he does stand for certain things. You will die, Siddhartha, I will die. Anyway, he does realize, quote, that Siddhartha was no longer with him in the place of his birth. His son had already left him behind, and he bids him adieu. We don't see the goodbye between Siddhartha and his mother. It's not even really mentioned, just as he goes to see her, and they're out of there. Siddhartha walks out of town, and he's joined by Govinda. So, a couple of things to pay attention to. You have a big decision here. And it's almost like, in the New Testament, right, in Mark chapter 10, I looked this up, and it says, quote, a man will leave his father and mother to be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. And it's kind of a famous passage from the Bible. In this moment, a man will leave his father and mother. Like that's part of life, like that shift to independence. Siddhartha makes that here in deciding to go and join this new religion. Anyway, it's good to be back. Questions, comments, concerns, thoughts on life, send me an email, and more of these will be coming. All right, andale pues.